So yeah, I got into a fight. Now, this thankfully wasn't a physical altercation because it probably would have put whoever I was fighting with into the hospital, knowing my perfect, wonderful masculine physique. But it was a little bit of a different fight, something that you are definitely all familiar with, one that involved social media. And it was one that really the topic I'll touch on briefly, but the topic is really not important. Basically, I made a tweet just yesterday responding to Hydron, who's an Overwatch League player, giving my 2 cents on some of his takes on a couple of players. And really, Hydron was very inflammatory. He's a very incendiary type of person, and I would not agree with the way that he said these things. So I just gave my 2 cents on a couple of players that I've studied for quite a long time, and then I gave my takes on them, more on the performance, not on exactly how awful they were. The problem was I didn't really clarify that I didn't exactly agree with the vernacular that he was using on some of the players I was commenting on. So there's a lot of intense Overwatch League fans that really like some of these players. And so without my knowledge, at least at the time, this tweet got posted onto the subreddit Competitive Overwatch. And there was a comment or two that was not really happy with me commenting on these things. Now, I've gotten into a fight with Competitive Overwatch before. And the irony is that the last time I got into a fight with Competitive Overwatch was when I was chastising them for being too personally insulting on many of the post-match threads to the players. I mean, some really nasty stuff was said and upvoted there. So anyway, I say these things and a bunch of bad takes and Spilo's never won anything. And, my first response is, this guy doesn't know jack all. Like, what is he talking about? This guy's freaking out. He's getting emotional. And what a turd muffin this guy is. Classic, And then I get into discussion with this guy. And this is where I think I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I think this is where I'm really starting to figure out trying to find my way as a content creator where it is do not engage and engage. And at this point in time with that subreddit, I still engage with a lot of the posts more so than I do with other things because I'm interested in what they have to say. So I engaged. I was like, it isn't that deep. Blah, blah, blah. And it turns out that this person was basically the point was that you just basically +1 somebody that said that somebody was effing awful. You really should do it. So you know what? I was like, I'm always holding myself to a higher standard. There's a ton of other Overwatch League and Overwatch content creators out there that are, casters and coaches and players that are way nastier than me. I'm literally the nicest coach, reviewer, player personality when it comes to players. I don't think there's anybody out there that's more friendly and considerate and kind with the ways that I say things. And even this was relatively only gameplay focused with two people that were never likely. But you know what? I don't want to hold myself to a higher standard in that regard, but I probably needed to. And especially when I didn't really clarify that I had to make a response. So I was like, you know what, you're right. I'll add that I don't think I'll use Hydron's exact vernacular to describe Edison, just that I don't think he's a very good hit scan, but someone who I'd expect to fit more into the intangible communication intelligence life for Dallas. So the person was right. The Reddit commenter got downvoted because the way that they said it was really nasty, but they were right. Random person, wherever you are in Europe, America, Asia, wherever, you're right. And I don't know who you are, and I'm not your friend, and I don't like the way that you said the things that you did. We ended up having a back and forth and kind of respectfully, whatever at the end. But they're right. And I think this is the hardest problem. And I think there's a lot to learn from this. Because again, the fight itself doesn't matter. I think that's the thing. It's he said, well, I don't think it's too, because I was like, where's the line to draw? I criticize people all the time when I'm reviewing their Twitch VODs, respectfully, but, I give criticism of, how they're playing, So what's the, where's the line to draw there? Can I never, ever criticize? So I think that was, in of itself, that discussion is complicated. But I think they were right about this particular point. And that's the tricky thing. You see, the thing with social media, it's I don't know who you are, right? Not necessarily you personally. I might not know who you are. I might know who you are, but I don't know who you are if you go on my Twitter or on Reddit or on YouTube or TikTok or Twitch chat and start trash talking me. And even if you're right, it's not human nature for me to go, hey, random person flaming me in the comments with reasonable criticisms. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And that's the problem. You see, the thing is I don't, when we're in human beings, we don't listen to strangers. We listen to people that we know. We listen to people that we trust. And the reason for that is in many ways a self-defense, but also because the average person doesn't know us. And the average person doesn't know our motivations. And the average person's criticisms are not only not fair, but often totally inaccurate. But that's not always the case with social media. You see, this person actually went in the comment thread and said, hey, I know that you generally hold yourself to a higher standard. This is below that standard. And I'm like, crap. Yeah, I guess you're kind of right there. You know what I'm saying? At least with the initial asterisk post. And it's weird to me because I don't know who this person is. I've never met them. I've never had a discourse with them. I've never even heard of their name on Reddit. And yet they kind of had an idea of what I hold myself to. And man, this is not something that people have really had to deal with, at least to this level, right? And I'm just a tiny, 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 tiny little speck in the community, right? And the problem is that people will have legitimate criticism, but I don't know them and I don't trust them, so I don't want to take them. But see, the other thing is true as well, because you really can't listen to all the criticism and all the feedback, because that would be very depressing. And usually I just don't engage. Like, there's a tier list I like to joke about when it comes to people that I listen to. There's Discord DMs, especially from people that I know. Always open to criticism and feedback. I don't get it a lot, but when I do, I'm very, very open to it, especially in my Discord. Twitch chat is a close second. People that are in my Twitch chat generally have known me for a while. They follow me, they subscribe me. I know their name, right? So I want to listen to what they have to say. I guess to a lesser extent, YouTube comments, although not necessarily ones that do pretty well like this, because generally about half of the comments are from people that don't even subscribe to me. So, and more YouTube comments. I listen here and there to some of you guys out there because you're more likely to be subscribed and be a viewer and have good feedback for things. I might even know your name. And then Twitter, I don't really know that I respond or read most Twitter replies because I don't know most of you. In fact, a lot of the Twitter tweets that I've blown up, especially around Overwatch, I've generally muted because I know that there's going to be a couple of bat crap insane people saying something really, really nasty in the comments. That's just going to put a sour note on things. And don't even get me started on TikTok. TikTok is out there. But see, that's how it has to be because I can't read every comment. It's not healthy mentally wise for me to be reading and responding and thinking about every criticism from Joe Schmo. But at the same time, as this recent engagement happened, I realized that it is so easy to write off people from that. And that's what makes it so hard. And that's why I think internet arguments are such a meme, because you think about it and these internet arguments are between people that are not looking at each other face to face. They're not holding back because it doesn't feel like a real person they're talking to. It's literally just every nasty gut instinct is being vomited out on the keyboard. There's no sense of respect or propriety. There's no give and take. There's no listening to the other person's arguments. There's no understanding that person or where they're coming from, or even understanding their intentions. You see, there's a lot of people that I have IRL that I don't agree with in a lot of political and religious and a lot of other things, but I even have lifestyle things that I think that they're doing that is really not great. But I have a lot of patience with them. And they, I'm sure, have a lot of patience with me because I know what kind of person they are. I've known them for a long time. I know that, they hold this thing that I don't agree with, but they do so because they have good intentions with it. And so I have a lot more tolerance for that. And they have a lot more tolerance with me because they know and I know their intentions. And that stuff is just lost in these pixels. And I think that that's the danger. And that's part of the reason why you just can't respond most of the time to social media criticism. You just can't. There's most of it's unfair. There's a lot of mentally ill people out there. And I'm not using that to throw mentally ill people, but dangerously mentally ill people, let's put it that way, under the bus that will say and do really nasty things to you. I've already had to deal with a few of those recently, and they can really take the wind out of your sails. And I think the key thing is that you need that feedback. I think that's my point today. Is it's not just that social media bad, but also that you do need that feedback. I think that you need to surround yourself with people that aren't just yes men, and that's hard because people that you like you generally don't want to criticize you, right? But you need people to be able to call you out. This is a little, not that this tweet is out of character. It's not really a bad tweet, right? Let's be honest. But it probably needed this disclaimer, and I think that that's something that's nice to have. I'm always asking for feedback in my YouTube comments, not just about you should do that. It's not nice, but could my content be better? Could my coaching sessions be better? Right. And I think that that's where you need people around you. I actually had a good friend of mine recently. She was very frustrated because another friend of mine didn't come to her to talk with her about a problem that he had, but talked with another friend of mine. And long story short, I have had to talk with her because I'm like, the reason why he's not coming to you is because he doesn't trust you. He enjoys spending time with your friend, but you're very a critical person. You're not a very warm, not even warm, but you're not a very trustworthy person. You shouldn't be very overly critical. So when he has a problem, he doesn't want to come to you because he knows you're just going to be very, very critical. And I think that's kind of goes back to what we're saying, where it's hard to take feedback from people that you don't trust. And so I guess my challenge to you guys is to be trustworthy people and kind and considerate. Be good friends that also hold people accountable kindly. But you can't hold people accountable without having that trust. And I think that's the most important thing. We want to criticize first and then trust me afterwards. And it really has to be the other way around, because otherwise this kind of stuff happens. And I'm going to be honest with you, even something as little as this took a lot of effort from me, more effort than I like, because I got an ego, and everybody has an ego. And I don't like when people that I don't know criticize me, because I don't think that they understand what I'm talking about, even when they do. And that's the hard part. And that's a weakness not only of mine, but I think everybody's. So what's there to learn? First off, find friends that not only are kind and fun, but that hold you accountable, and ask them for accountability. I think that's the other thing too, is you have to be open and willing for accountability. And that's a hard pill to swallow. What do you think I need to be doing better? What if you could critique how I'm handling this or this and that? And it's hard to be like broad out there, but be on the look for criticism and improvement when it's coming from a healthy and a loving position. And the other thing I'll say, and this is a bit of a departure from the topic today, is I had this realization. I literally dreamed about this, and I wrote about it and on Twitter because, and we talked about, where is it? Yeah, here it is. I swear one of the most dystopian things about social media is that back in my day, basically the TLDR is that like back in my day, social media was used to actually meet and talk with people. And I've been trying to do this a little bit more recently is I used my social media for discourse about Overwatch. But even that is like, I really do feel like social media needs to kind of come back. If you're going to use social media, try and set up stuff. Try and use it in a social way. Like meet people, hang out with people, talk with people, have fun, something in common with that person. I guess my point is that like, I think that like with all these negative things that we say about social media, what is great about social media? And it's really about sharing fun things that you enjoy with other people, getting to know other people that have common interests, and then setting up ways to actually do things with other people. And I think that's been something that I've been struggling with recently. I think that's one of the great things about Discord. I think that's been the new social media, if it is social. But in many ways, that's a very remote way of doing it. And if you can at all set up anything in person, it's a great way to do it. So maybe that's a shot in the dark, but it's what has kept social media relevant, I think, beyond the entertainment. And even though entertainment feed is really why we do social media now, I feel like that's such a shame. But anyway, long story short, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate any of you guys in the comments that are, longtime viewers and support and appreciate the channel and kind of know me, because, I don't put up much of a facade. Generally, what you see is what you get. So if you guys have criticisms or feedback for me, I am open to it from you guys for the most part, because you guys, I know you guys. But it's a good reminder, first off, to not be that guy in the Reddit, to throw criticism and feedback because you're emotionally involved without me knowing you in that regard. And don't be me either, where you might get criticism or feedback and you're immediately writing it off. And just because it's somebody that you're not 100% sure that you know, or give it a little bit of thought, I think it's worth it to do. But then also, best case scenario, maybe don't engage at all. And maybe that's something that I'm still learning how to do, still learning how to find the line between what is the community that I want to engage with because I'm a content creator and because you guys are worth my time, and what is a community that's not worth engaging with. And I have still a lot to learn when it comes to that. Anyway, have a good rest of your week.